BFTaskCompletionSource is another of the three main classes in the Boltz framework that you need to become familiar with. It is essentially a factory for creating promises. So to take a look at where I use that in the application, there's a couple places, but probably the easiest to understand is this inside the Data Dragon module. Inside task, there's a method or a command called getChampionStaticDataTask. And this is a command that runs asynchronously using AF networking, the library, the standard de facto library for doing networking in iOS apps, to hit a URL here. This is part of the URL. It hits the Riot Games Data Dragon champion URL to retrieve a list of champions that have been released for the current version of the game. So I use the completion source here I just create an instance, and then I use the AF networking API to retrieve or to hit that API and get data back. It uses a different mechanism for handling asynchronous requests. I have to pass along a success handler here and a failure handler here. So what I do is this code runs asynchronously. So I create the factory here, and then I schedule this work to be done on another background queue managed by AF networking, and I simply return the promise right here. So this runs later, but the requester gets a promise back immediately. So this simply is I keep a reference to this because I use it later when I do finally get a successful result back from AF networking. I simply set the result on the promise, which is again the completion source, and whatever came back from AF networking on this URL request here gets set as the result. This causes the promise to resolve to whoever called this, and its continuation block will fire. If I get a failure instead, if I get some error, networking error, let's say that I was in airplane mode or something, or the API was down, I would get an error, and I would resolve the same promise with the error that came back. Regardless, this promise got returned immediately to its caller. I kept a reference to the task completion source, and I used it here in this asynchronous callback to resolve the promise. So it's kind of a unique use case, but you may find yourself using the promise factory, BFTaskCompletionSource, and studying this code and the other uses in this application will help familiarize yourself with it.